California Veterans Mental Health Crisis by Ryan Easley. Throughout American history, America's servicemen and women have been responsible for our domestic safety and foreign endeavors on a global scale. With these tremendous responsibilities come with equally tremendous but debilitating factors. One of these burdens has been the mental health crisis that affects many of our transitioning veterans from active duty to the civilian world. The following will be discussing the various challenges California veterans face in seeking proper mental health care and the barriers that can obstruct them from receiving thorough and adequate treatment from the resources provided by the Veterans Affairs and other California mental health providers. Negative stigma has been a tremendous barrier preventing veterans from seeking mental health treatment. There are 3 themes reported in the stigma literature with regard to the beliefs the public holds about individuals with mental illness. The first of the themes is authoritarianism. Individuals with a mental illness are seen as irresponsible and unable to tend for themselves. The second belief is in reference to fear and exclusion. These individuals with a mental illness should be feared and restricted from society. Lastly, the public tends to hold a theme of benevolence toward people with a psychological problem. Individuals with mental illnesses are seen as childlike, naive, and innocent. These 3 factors bestow such a debilitating weight on the shoulders of veterans seeking treatment and attributes to their ever-decreasing mental health stability. In 2015, a participatory mixed methods project was initiated to elicit veteran-centered barriers to using mental health care services, and the responses of veterans had many similarities in regards to the problems they faced. One veteran who was asked about the stigma regarding mental health treatment stated that it's scary to go for mental health care because people automatically think that you're not stable enough to handle tasks in the military. Cal MHSA has been the overseeing authority in combating mental health stigma by improving the regulation for all treatment programs for Californians and its veterans by working closely with the VA to improve their programs as well as by offering more resources. A number of programs aim to reduce the stigma and discrimination associated with mental illness. They can include a variety of components such as training, education, media campaigns, and contact with people with mental illness. Stigma and discrimination reduction activities are evaluated in this report using evidence from an extensive literature review. Specific areas reviewed include relevant theories of stigma and prejudice reduction, what is and is not known about the effectiveness of various approaches to reducing the stigma of mental illness, the kinds of methodologies previously used in evaluating these approaches, and the methodologies that should be employed in the future. Another major perpetrator that attributes to the declining mental stability of veterans has been the inadequate resources provided to them. According to a recent study conducted by Linda Tran and her team of researchers at UCLA, they found that only 25% of all California veterans seen for mental health treatment received adequate care. Adequate treatment has been defined as 4 or more visits with a health professional and the use of prescription medication for mental health within the previous year. Another major
Guys, run! Go! He's coming out this door!
This shooting is again sparking conversations about mental health. Officers say they had several minor run-ins with the accused mass shooter, Ian Long. In April, deputies were called to his home on a report that he was acting erratically. The 28-year-old served as a Marine, so detectives are investigating whether PTSD is a factor.
When a soldier is coming back from any kind of wartime situation, the families are going to be the ones who are going to notice that things are different. This person is now different. And a lot of times, you want to believe the best. You want to believe that, he's going to get over this. He's been through this horrible situation, but he's back home and he's safe. And that feeling of safety doesn't actually translate. So it goes unnoticed.
Veterans I talk with say at least 1 out of 8 soldiers return with PTSD. They say resources need to be available to help them cope. The images of the shooting in Yountville is bringing hurt to many veterans.
It's a sad wake-up call.
Tino Adame is a decorated veteran who knows what it's like to live with post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD.
The whole VA system is long overdue for revamping.
These incidents and tragedies are absolutely astounding, and they can attribute to the rising increase in mental health illnesses and instability amongst California veterans. In efforts to decrease tragic instances such as this one, California and the VA have attempted to implement more feasible and convenient resources to be utilized by veterans that will help eradicate this ongoing crisis. The VA has taken an active role in facilitating its services to veterans via online resources and telephone hotlines. One resource I came across in my research was a case study of an Army veteran named Jennifer who accumulated multiple combat deployments during her tenure in the reserves. Upon her transition from her 2 decades of service to the civilian world, she struggled with crippling depression and often found herself feeling isolated and out of touch with the ones she loved and cared for. As time went on and she began to realize the severity of her depression, Jennifer finally turned to the VA and was introduced to VA telemental health. This new method of treatment uses video conferencing technology that connects patients with a VA mental health care provider through a computer or mobile device. This method that can be used in the comfort of their own home helps create a better and more comfortable process of receiving treatment. Though the VA has been attempting to eradicate all these tangible issues of supplementing care where needed, veterans' personal obstacles and barriers have been a key player that still prevent them from seeking treatment. These obstacles increase the amount of stress veterans endure and increase their burdens by lowering their own mental health on a list of priorities by just simply getting immersed in the demands of their everyday life. Referring to the 2015 Mixed Methods Project, some common issues that were mentioned by veterans include the responsibilities of a job, a child, reliable transportation, and distance of VA clinics to be utilized. In addition to this, the resources overall have not only been less than adequate for when they do seek care, but it often falls short of what would be considered efficient in terms of progress for veterans' mental health. Though the VA has attempted to accommodate for the lack of sufficient care, resources such as crisis intervention and suicide programs are not readily available at most VA hospital and health systems due to the shortage of critical mental health personnel and the general lack of support in addressing crisis intervention issues. As a result, veterans who do not rely primarily on the VA healthcare delivery systems to address their mental health needs, once they return home from combat, they do not have easy access to these critical crisis intervention services. Stemming from data collected from 2008 to 2016, the findings displayed that veterans are 1.5 times more likely than non-veterans to take their lives, and an average of more than 6,000 veterans took their lives each year during this time frame as well. Existing mental health services for veterans are clearly insufficient. Another statistic stated that from 2001 to 2014, veteran suicides have jumped 32%. One of the causes of this is that too many VA facilities simply don't have enough staff to provide personalized care. Therapists are badly outnumbered, and vets are often hurried through their offices. Sometimes, staffing shortages force facilities to simply turn vets away. This denial of service leads to a grotesque phenomenon of desperate soldiers killing themselves on VA grounds. One 51-year-old Persian Gulf War veteran set himself on fire in front of a VA clinic after a canceled appointment. Another veteran shot himself in the waiting room of a VA medical center. And another 76-year-old veteran shot himself in the parking lot of his own VA facility because when he went to the VR, he was denied service. But improving treatment requires more than new resources. Our mental health system must evolve its therapeutic paradigms to be more proactive, treating the root causes of mental illness. Too often, VA facilities are purely reactive, only kicking into action once a veteran is suffering a crisis. Proactively addressing the precursors to suicidal ideation can prevent the crisis in the first place. In conclusion, we can see there is still a lot of work to be done. The only resolution that we can foresee in the future would be a collective and collaborative effort from both parties, which would ultimately achieve the same goal, which is minimizing the amount of mental health disorders and suicides and increase the confidence our veterans have in the current VA system.